I stopped answering her calls on a Tuesday. Not because I was petty. Not because I wanted to play games. I stopped answering because there was nothing left to say. When you catch your wife in another man's arms, not just physically but emotionally, completely, words become meaningless. They're just sounds that echo in empty rooms. The discovery wasn't dramatic. No catching them in bed. No lipstick on collars. It was simpler than that and somehow worse. I came home early from a business trip, exhausted from 3 days of back-to-back meetings in Chicago. The house was dark except for the glow of her laptop in the living room. She'd fallen asleep on the couch and the screen was still on. I wasn't snooping. I was going to close it, save her battery, maybe carry her to bed like I'd done 100 times before. But then I saw the messages. Thousands of them. Months of them. Not just affair texts. Those would have been easier somehow. These were love letters. Deep, intimate conversations about futures and feelings. About how she'd never felt truly seen until she met him. About how I was a good man but not her man. The one that broke me was simple. I'm staying with Marcus because leaving would hurt him. But I'm only truly alive when I'm with you. Marcus, that's me. The man who would be hurt. Not heartbroken. Not devastated, just hurt like a stubbed toe. An inconvenience. I stood there for 20 minutes reading. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just felt cold, like someone had opened a window in my chest and let all the warmth escape. When I finally moved, it was with absolute clarity. I didn't wake her. Didn't confront her. I went upstairs, packed a bag with methodical precision. Clothes, documents. The watch my father gave me before he died. The photo of my mom. Everything else could burn for all I cared. I was out the door by midnight. The next morning, she called. I was already at David's apartment. My best friend since college, the only person I'd texted at 2 a.m. with, "Need a place to crash?" Don't ask yet. I let it ring. She called again an hour later. Then again. By noon, there were 6 missed calls. I blocked her number. She found other ways. Work email, LinkedIn. She even called David's phone, but he'd already told her he wasn't getting involved, that I'd talk when I was ready. The truth was, I'd never be ready. What people don't understand about betrayal is that it's not the act itself that destroys you. It's the realization that while you were building a life, they were building an exit. While you were thinking about anniversaries and maybe starting a family, they were composing poetry to someone else. Every "I love you" becomes suspect. Every kiss becomes a lie told with lips. I hired a lawyer that Friday. Eleanor Chen, a shark in a pantsuit who came highly recommended. She took one look at the screenshots I'd saved and smiled grimly. "This'll be clean," she said. "Adultery's not what it used to be in court, but this level of deception, combined with the fact that you're not asking for anything unreasonable." She'll sign. I didn't want the house. Didn't want alimony. I just wanted out. Fast and final. What I didn't tell Eleanor, what I didn't tell anyone, was that there was someone else in the equation. Not an affair. God, I'd never do that. But someone who'd been there quietly, consistently while my marriage crumbled. Nina. We'd met at a coffee shop 6 months ago, both reaching for the last blueberry muffin like a scene from a bad rom-com. She'd laughed and insisted I take it. I'd insisted she take it. We'd ended up splitting it and talking for 2 hours. She was a graphic designer, recently divorced, with a dry wit and kind eyes. We'd exchanged numbers as friends, genuinely just friends. But over those months, as things with my wife grew distant and cold, Nina became my safe harbor. We'd meet for coffee, talk about art and life and the way the city looked at dawn. She never pushed, never asked for more. She was just there, present in a way I'd forgotten people could be. I hadn't told her about the separation yet. Hadn't told her that when I looked at her, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope, but I would. Soon. First, I had to disappear completely. Eleanor suggested I take some time away, let the papers process, avoid any confrontation that might complicate things. I had vacation days saved up. David had a cousin with a cabin upstate. I booked a flight for Monday morning. That Sunday night, my phone, the new number she didn't have, lit up with a notification. David's phone. 20 missed calls from Sarah in the last hour. "Dude," his text read. "She's losing it. Says it's an emergency. Should I?" "No," I typed back. "Let her sit with it." I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. I had no idea that voicemail number 21 would change everything. The airport was quiet at 5 a.m. I sat at gate B7, nursing a black coffee that tasted like burned rubber, watching the sunrise paint the tarmac orange and gold. My flight to upstate New York didn't leave for another hour, but I'd arrived early, mostly to avoid my own thoughts. My phone sat on my lap, still off. I'd promised myself I wouldn't turn it on until I landed. Clean break. Fresh start. All those cliches that people throw around when their lives implode. But curiosity is a vicious thing. I powered it on just to check the time. Immediately, it exploded with notifications. 37 missed calls, 15 voicemails, texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Sarah had clearly gotten creative. I should have turned it back off, should have deleted everything without listening. But there was something in me, some masochistic need to hear her justify it, to hear what excuse she'd invented. That made me open the voicemail app. The first 19 were predictable, crying, apologies. Please, Marcus, just talk to me. I can explain everything. You don't understand. The desperation escalated with each one, but they all said the same nothing. Voicemail 20 was different. Her voice was steady, eerily calm. I know you saw the messages. I know you're gone. And I know I deserve this silence. But Marcus, there's something you need to know before you disappear completely, about why I was talking to him. About what was really happening. It's not what you think. Or maybe it's worse. I don't know anymore. Just, please, one conversation. That's all I'm asking. Then I'll sign whatever papers you want. I'll disappear. Just one conversation. I almost deleted it. Almost. But something in her voice, genuine fear, not just panic at being caught, made me hesitate. Then came voicemail 21. She was crying again, but not the hysterical kind. These were quiet tears, the sound of someone breaking from the inside out. Marcus, I'm pregnant. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. 8 weeks. I found out 3 days before you left. I was going to tell you that weekend, had this whole thing planned, and then you were just gone. And I realized you'd seen everything and I couldn't blame you for running. But this baby, Marcus, this baby is yours. I know what those messages looked like. I know what you must think, but I never slept with him. Never touched him. It was emotional and it was wrong and I hate myself for it. But physically, only you. Only ever you. She paused and I could hear her trying to compose herself. I got the DNA test. Even though I know. I got it done yesterday because I knew you wouldn't believe me. The results are in my email. I'll forward them wherever you want. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm not asking you to come back. If you want to leave, I'll raise this baby alone. But you deserve to know. And if there's any part of you that remembers who we were before everything got so broken, I'm here. I'm still here. The voicemail ended. I sat frozen, coffee going cold in my hand as announcements echoed through the terminal. Boarding for flight 447 to Syracuse. That was my flight. My escape route. The phone buzzed. An email from Sarah with the subject line, DNA results. Please read. My hand hovered over it. Schrodinger's email. As long as I didn't open it, I could still walk away. Could still believe this was just another manipulation. Another lie to reel me back in. But if I didn't open it, I'd never know. And not knowing would haunt me forever. I clicked it. The document loaded slowly, officially stamped and notarized. Paternal probability, 99.97%. Collection date was 2 days ago. She'd done this through a proper lab, not some online scam, which meant she'd had to explain to a doctor why she needed a prenatal paternity test while her husband was missing. Final boarding call for flight 447. I looked at my carry-on bag. At the gate. At my phone. 8 weeks pregnant. That meant conception was around, I counted backward, mid-August. We'd gone to that bed and breakfast in Vermont for our anniversary. The one with the fireplace and the view of the lake. We'd actually been happy that weekend. Connected. Like the people we used to be. I remembered now. She'd been different when we got back. Distant. Tired. I'd assumed it was work stress. She'd assumed, what? That her emotional affair invalidated our physical reality. But the messages, those damning intimate messages, I'm only truly alive when I'm with you. Could both things be true? Could she have loved him emotionally while never crossing the physical line? And if so, was that better or worse? I texted David, don't get on the plane. Need to think. He responded immediately. Thank God. I've been worried you're making a mistake. Might be making a bigger one by staying, or might be saving your life. Either way, it's yours to make. I called Nina. She answered on the second ring, groggy but alert when she heard my voice. Marcus? It's not even 6. Are you okay? I'm at the airport, was supposed to fly out this morning. Get away from everything, but I exhaled slowly. Something came up. Something big. Do you need me to come get you? And that right there, that instant, unquestioning offer, that was why Nina had become so important. She didn't need explanations or justifications, she just showed up. No. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to miss my flight either way. I just needed to hear a voice that wasn't in my head. Talk to me, she said simply. So I did. I told her about the voicemails, the pregnancy, the DNA test, the impossible choice between walking away clean and walking back into fire. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. What do you want? She finally asked. Not what you should do. Not what's right or fair. What do you want? I watched my flight taxi away from the gate without me. I want to believe people can be complicated without being evil. I want to believe she made a terrible mistake but didn't destroy everything. I stopped, surprised by what came next. I want to know if the person I married is still in there somewhere. Then go find out, Nina said softly. And Marcus? Whatever you find, I'm still here. Not as a backup plan, just as someone who cares about you. No pressure, no expectations. I closed my eyes. You're too good for this mess. Maybe. But it's your mess to figure out. Go. Talk to her. Get your answers. Then decide. I grabbed my bag and headed for the exit. Sarah's car was in the driveway when I arrived. Our driveway. The house we'd bought 3 years ago with dreams of filling the extra bedrooms. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sat in David's borrowed car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, trying to organize the chaos in my head into something resembling coherent thoughts. Through the front window, I could see her moving around the kitchen. She looked smaller somehow, or maybe I'd just grown used to seeing her larger than life in my memories. Finally, I texted her. I'm outside. The front door opened so fast she must have been watching for me. She stood on the porch in sweatpants and one of my old college hoodies, her hair pulled back, face bare of makeup. She looked exhausted and terrified. You came, she whispered. Don't make me regret it. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, argued about paint colors, planned vacations we'd never take now. The space between us felt vast. Talk, I said. You said I didn't understand. Make me understand. She wrapped her hands around a mug of tea, knuckles white. His name is Andrew. We met at a work conference in March. He's a consultant, married, 2 kids. We started as friends, just colleagues who got along. Then it became emails, then texts, then video calls. I saw the messages, Sarah. Those weren't work calls. I know. She looked up at me, eyes red-rimmed. I'm not minimizing it. What I did was a betrayal. Emotional infidelity is still infidelity. I gave him parts of me that belonged to you, and I'm sorry. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. Why? The word came out harder than I intended. Why him? Why at all? What was I not giving you? She flinched. It wasn't about what you weren't giving. It was about what I wasn't letting you give. Do you remember last winter when my dad got diagnosed? I nodded. Her father had lung cancer, stage 3. He'd beaten it after brutal chemo, but those months had been hell for her. I couldn't talk to you about it, she continued. I don't know why. Every time I tried, I just shut down. You were so steady, so strong, and I felt like if I broke down in front of you, I'd shatter completely. So I held it in. And then I met Andrew, and he'd been through the same thing with his mother, and suddenly I could talk. All those feelings I'd bottled up came pouring out to this stranger. So you fell in love with him because he let you be sad? I didn't fall in love with him. She said it firmly, meeting my eyes. I fell in love with the version of myself I could be with him, the messy, broken version. With you, I always felt like I had to be. Together, strong, the perfect wife. And that's not your fault. That's mine. But with Andrew, I could fall apart. And it felt like freedom. I wanted to scream at her that she could have fallen apart with me. That's what marriage was supposed to be. But a small, honest part of me remembered how I'd reacted when she'd cried about her father. I'd gone into fix-it mode, researched treatment options, made meal plans. I'd tried to solve her grief instead of just sitting with her in it. The messages I read, I said slowly, were from September, 2 months after your dad went into remission. She nodded, tears spilling over. By then, it had become something else. An escape. An addiction. I knew it was wrong. I'd try to stop, delete his number, block him. But then I'd feel overwhelmed or lonely or just tired of being the functional adult, and I'd reach out again. It was selfish and cowardly, and I hate myself for it. Did you love him? I loved how he made me feel. Is that the same thing? I don't know, but Marcus. She reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. You were my husband, my home. He was just an escape room I could hide in. That doesn't make it better. I know, nothing makes it better. But when I say I never touched him, I mean it. We met in person exactly once. That conference where we met. Every other interaction was digital. And the physical side of us, of our marriage, that never stopped feeling real and right. Even when I was emotionally checked out, being with you still felt like coming home. I sat back, processing. That night in Vermont, our anniversary. Was he in your head then too? She shook her head violently. No. God, no. That weekend was just us. I'd actually ended things with Andrew the week before. Told him I was going to fix my marriage, and I meant it. That weekend was the beginning of me trying to find my way back to you, to us. Then what happened? Life. Work got stressful. Dad had a cancer scare. Turned out to be nothing, but those 2 weeks of waiting for test results broke me. And instead of coming to you, I ran back to my hiding place. I messaged Andrew again, started the whole cycle over. And by the time I realized I was pregnant, by the time I knew I wanted to fix things for real this time, you'd already found the messages. She pulled her laptop across the table, opened her email. This is the last message I sent him 2 days before you left. I read it. Andrew, I'm pregnant. It's my husband's baby. We've been trying, even though I never told you that part. I'm telling you this not because you have any claim to it, but because I need to be honest about why I can't do this anymore. I have to choose. And I'm choosing my marriage. I'm choosing Marcus. Please don't contact me again. I'm sorry for the time I wasted, yours and mine. I hope you find what you're looking for, but you won't find it with me. His response was time-stamped the next day. I understand. I hope he knows how lucky he is. Goodbye, Sarah. I never responded, she said. That was the end of it. And then, you saw the old messages and left, and I couldn't explain because you'd blocked me everywhere. And I didn't blame you, but I also couldn't just let you disappear without knowing about the baby. We sat in silence. The kitchen clock ticked. Outside, someone's car alarm went off, then stopped. I don't know if I can forgive this, I said quietly. I don't know if I can forget every time you smiled at your phone and I wondered what was so funny. Every night you came to bed late because you were finishing work. Every time you seemed distant and I thought it was me, that I was failing you somehow. It was never you failing me. It was me failing both of us. Is the difference supposed to comfort me? No. She wiped her eyes. Nothing about this should comfort you. You deserved better, you still do, but this baby, Marcus. This baby deserves a chance to know their father. Even if you can't forgive me. Even if we can't fix this. Don't punish them for my mistakes. And there it was. The impossible weight of it. A child who didn't ask to be conceived into chaos. A child who was, according to science and circumstance, mine. I pulled out my phone, looked at the picture I'd saved there 3 months ago. Nina and me at the art museum, laughing at some ridiculous modern sculpture. The moment I'd realized I was developing real feelings for someone who wasn't my wife. I'd been so angry at Sarah for her emotional affair. But hadn't I been cultivating my own escape? Different circumstances, maybe. Different intentions. But the same fundamental truth. When marriages hurt, people look for doors. I need time, I said, to process this, all of it. I'm not coming home today, maybe not for a while, but I'm not getting on that plane either. That's fair, she whispered. And we need counseling. Real, intensive, cards-on-the-table counseling. If, and that's a massive if, there's any chance of salvaging this, we need professional help. I'll find someone, the best person. I'll do anything. I stood up, grabbed my keys. I'll be in touch about the baby. Doctor's appointments, ultrasounds, whatever you need. But Sarah, I'm doing this for them, not for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand. At the door, I turned back. One more question. If I hadn't found those messages, if I'd come home and you'd told me about the pregnancy, would you have kept seeing him? She took a long time to answer. Long enough that I knew the truth before she spoke. I'd like to think I wouldn't. But honestly, I don't know. And that's the part that scares me most. At least she was finally being honest. The coffee shop where I'd first met Nina became my neutral ground. Not home, not Sarah's place. Not even David's apartment where I'd been crashing. Just a quiet corner table where I could exist without the weight of anyone's expectations. Nina found me there on Wednesday morning, 2 days after my conversation with Sarah. She slid into the seat across from me without asking, pushed a blueberry muffin across the table, the same kind we'd split that first day. You look like hell, she said gently. Feel worse. I managed a weak smile. Thanks for meeting me. Of course. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, mirroring Sarah's gesture from days before. Different woman, same nervous energy. How are you holding up? I'm pregnant, I said, then laughed at the absurdity. Well, not me, but you know what I mean. I'm going to be a father, with a woman who may or may not still be in love with someone else, while having feelings for someone who deserves better than this mess. So yeah, living the dream. Nina didn't flinch. That was one of the things I'd always appreciated about her. She didn't shy away from uncomfortable truths. Have you told Sarah about me? She asked. Not yet. Haven't told you about her either, really. Not the full story. I exhaled slowly. Seems like I've been keeping my own escape door open while judging her for hers. Is that what I am to you? An escape door? I met her eyes. No, you're more than that. Which is why this is so complicated. She nodded slowly. You want to know something funny? When you called from the airport, I thought maybe this was our moment. That you'd left your wife, you'd be free, and we could explore what this thing between us might become. Then you mentioned the pregnancy, and I realized how selfish I was being. This isn't a rom-com. It's someone's actual life falling apart. Your honesty is devastating sometimes. Would you prefer I lie? God, no. I've had enough lies to last a lifetime. I broke off a piece of the muffin, crumbled it between my fingers. Can I ask you something? About your divorce. Shoot. Did you see it coming? Or did it blindside you? She considered this. Both. I saw the problems. We fought constantly, wanted different things, couldn't communicate without it becoming warfare. But I didn't see how far gone we were until he told me he'd already talked to a lawyer. I thought we were in a rough patch. Turns out he'd been done for months. How'd you get past it? Therapy. Time. Accepting that sometimes love isn't enough if the foundation's cracked. We loved each other, but we were terrible at being married to each other. Those are different skills, she paused. Why do you ask? Because I'm trying to figure out if Sarah and I have a cracked foundation or if we just forgot how to maintain it. And I don't know how to tell the difference. Maybe that's what counseling is for. We have our first session tomorrow. I'm terrified of what you'll discover, of what I won't. What if we go through all this work, all this painful honesty, and at the end I still can't forgive her? What if the baby's the only reason I'm trying? And that's not enough. Nina reached across the table, covered my hand with hers. Marcus, you're one of the best people I know. Whatever you decide, it'll come from a place of integrity. Trust yourself. I don't know if I trust my judgment anymore. I didn't see any of this coming. Nobody ever does. That's why it hurts so much. We sat in comfortable silence, her hand still on mine. I knew I should pull away. This was exactly the kind of intimacy that had gotten Sarah into trouble. But I couldn't quite make myself do it. Nina was my lifeline, the proof that I was still capable of connection. "What do you need from me?" she asked finally. "In all this, what role do you need me to play?" I'd been thinking about this question since the airport. "Honestly, I need you to give me space. Not forever. But while I figure out my marriage, I can't have you in my head as an alternative. It's not fair to anyone, especially you." She pulled her hand back, nodded. "I understand, Nina. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I've been the friend you needed, but somewhere along the way I became more than that. And as long as I'm in the picture, you'll never know if you're making choices for the right reasons." She smiled sadly. "I care about you too much to be your escape door. This feels like losing twice. It's not losing. It's choosing. There's a difference." She stood up, left cash for both our coffees. "When you've sorted things out, however they turn out, call me. If you want to. But Marcus, don't call me because you're lonely or because it didn't work out. Call me because you're whole again and you want to share that wholeness, okay?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. She kissed my forehead, a gentle final gesture, and walked out of the coffee shop. I watched her go, feeling the loss settle into my chest next to all the other losses. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Therapist is Dr. Rebecca Okonkwo. First session tomorrow at 2 p.m. She specializes in infidelity and rebuilding trust. No pressure if you can't make it." I stared at the message for a long time. This was the fork in the road. I could text back, "I'll be there," and commit to the hard work of reconstruction. Or I could ignore it, call my lawyer, and start building a co-parenting plan for a child who would grow up with separated parents. Neither option was clean. Neither was easy. But only one option gave the baby a chance at an intact family. Only one option honored the vows I'd made, even if Sarah had fractured them. Only one option let me look at myself in the mirror and know I'd tried everything before walking away. I texted back, "I'll be there. But Sarah, I'm doing this with one foot out the door. You need to know that. I'm showing up, but I'm not promising I'll stay." Her response came quickly. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." I went back to David's apartment and spent the rest of the day preparing. I wrote down every question I had, every hurt I needed to voice, every doubt that kept me awake at night. I organized them by category: betrayal, trust, the baby, the future. By the time I finished, I had 3 pages of single-spaced text. That night, I dreamed about the house with extra bedrooms. In the dream, they were filled, one with a crib, one with toys, one with Nina's artwork. But I could only enter one room at a time, and every door I opened closed another behind me. I woke up at dawn, sweating. The message was pretty clear: whatever I chose, I was losing something. The question was what I could live without. Dr. Okonkwo's office smelled like lavender and leather. She was a tall woman with silver locks and a direct gaze that made me feel simultaneously exposed and safe. Sarah and I sat on opposite ends of her couch, a chasm of cushion between us. "Before we begin," Dr. Okonkwo said, "I want to establish something. This is not a courtroom. I'm not here to determine who's right or wrong. I'm here to help you both understand what happened, why it happened, and whether there's a path forward. Marcus, Sarah tells me you're uncertain about that last part." "I'm here," I said. "That's all I can promise right now." "That's enough to start with." She turned to Sarah. "You've admitted to an emotional affair. Walk me through how it began." We spent the next hour excavating the wreckage. Sarah talked about her father's illness, her inability to be vulnerable with me, the way Andrew became a pressure valve for emotions she couldn't express. I talked about feeling shut out, about trying to fix instead of listen, about the months of watching her slip away without knowing why. "Marcus," Dr. Okonkwo said, "you mentioned feeling like a supporting character in your own marriage. Can you elaborate?" It felt like she decided I wasn't enough, and instead of telling me, she just found someone who was, or thought she did. And the worst part is I spent 6 months thinking it was my fault, that I was boring or inadequate or... "I never thought you were inadequate," Sarah interrupted. "God, Marcus, you're the best man I know." "Then why wasn't I enough?" "Because I wasn't enough." She turned to face me fully for the first time. "For myself." I wasn't enough. I was so busy trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, perfect at work. I had nothing left for me. And instead of fixing that, I found someone who let me be imperfect. But here's what I didn't understand until you left. Andrew wasn't the solution. He was a symptom. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. Sarah, what do you mean by that? I mean, I have a problem with asking for what I need. With being vulnerable, with letting people see me struggling. And that's not Marcus's fault. That's not even Andrew's fault. That's mine. Andrew was just easier because he didn't matter. Marcus mattered so much that failing in front of him felt unbearable. I felt something crack open in my chest. You think I'd judge you for not being perfect? Not consciously, but I judged myself, and I projected that onto you. So when you tried to help, I felt criticized. When you stayed calm, I felt inadequate. I built a wall between us, and then I resented you for not breaking through it. That's not fair, I said quietly. I know, none of this is fair. We sat with that truth for a moment. Marcus, Dr. Okonkwo said, there's something I want you to consider. Sarah's affair, emotional though it was, happened because of her inability to communicate her needs within the marriage. That's a her problem. But the marriage itself? That's a shared construction. Both of you built patterns that didn't serve you. The question isn't just whether you can forgive her betrayal. It's whether you both want to build different patterns. And if I'm not sure I can, then we work on clarity. But Marcus, I need you to be honest about something. Is there someone else in your emotional picture right now? I froze. Sarah's head snapped toward me. There was, I said slowly. I don't know, a friend. Someone I met while things were falling apart. I never cheated. But emotionally, yeah, I was starting to invest in someone who wasn't my wife. Sarah's face went pale. Who? It doesn't matter. I ended it. Or put it on hold. Because I couldn't do what you did. Build something with someone else while still being married. But you wanted to, she said softly. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of fact. Yeah, I wanted to. Because she made me feel valued in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. This is important. You're both here, but you've both been looking at exits. The question is whether you want to stop looking. Sarah spoke first. I want to stop. I want to fight for this, for us, for our family. She put her hand on her stomach, still flat, but the gesture was clear. This baby deserves parents who are all in. But Marcus, I can't fight for both of us. You have to want this too. I closed my eyes. Thought about Nina's last words. Don't call me because you're lonely. Call me because you're whole. Thought about my father, who'd stayed in a loveless marriage for the kids and died bitter and regretful. Thought about that weekend in Vermont, when I'd looked at Sarah across the fireplace and felt like the luckiest man alive. Thought about the 21 missed calls. The desperation in her voice. The way she'd said, I'm still here. I want to be the kind of man who can forgive this, I said finally. I want to believe in second chances, but I'm also terrified that forgiving you means accepting less than I deserve. That staying means teaching our kid that betrayal is acceptable if you apologize enough. That's a valid fear, Dr. Okonkwo said. But consider this. Forgiveness isn't about accepting betrayal. It's about releasing the need to punish it. And staying isn't about teaching your child to accept less. It's about teaching them that people are complex, that mistakes don't define us, and that love is a choice we make every day, even when it's hard. Sarah was crying now. I will spend the rest of my life proving you didn't make a mistake by giving me another chance. If you give me one, I will go to therapy. I will be transparent. I will do whatever work I need to do to understand why I sabotaged us. But Marcus, I need you to know I love you. Not the idea of you, not the security you represent. You. The man who brings me coffee before I ask. Who remembers I hate cilantro? Who cried at our wedding because you said you couldn't believe someone like me wanted someone like you? That man, I love that man. Then why'd you hurt him? Because I'm broken in ways I didn't understand. But I'm trying to understand now. I'm trying to fix myself so I don't break us again. I looked at her, really looked at her. Saw the exhaustion and fear and desperate hope. Saw the woman I'd married and the woman she'd become and the woman she might still be if I gave her space to grow. Okay, I said quietly. Okay, I'll try. I can't promise I'll succeed. Can't promise this won't all fall apart in 3 months or 3 years. But I'll try. For the baby. For the marriage we had. for the possibility of becoming people who are better at this. She reached across the couch, and this time I didn't pull away when she took my hand. "That's all I'm asking," she whispered. Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "This is the beginning, not the ending. You have months of hard work ahead. There will be days when you want to quit. Days when the hurt feels too fresh. Days when you'll question this decision. But if you both stay committed to the process, to radical honesty and uncomfortable growth, you might be surprised what you can rebuild." We scheduled weekly sessions. I agreed to move back home in 2 weeks. Not to rush intimacy, Dr. Okonkwo clarified, but to start practicing cohabitation and communication in your actual environment. In the parking lot, Sarah turned to me. "Do you want to know the sex of the baby? We can find out at the next ultrasound." "Do you?" "Yeah, I think I do. I want to start making plans. Picking names. Making this real. Then yeah, let's find out." 2 weeks later, we sat in the doctor's office, holding hands but not quite looking at each other, as the ultrasound tech moved the wand across Sarah's belly. "There's your baby," she said, pointing to the screen. "Perfect heartbeat. And if you want to know, you're having a girl. A daughter. I was going to have a daughter." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Emma," she whispered. "After your mom, if that's okay." I couldn't speak, could only nod as tears ran down my face. That night I texted Nina for the first time in 3 weeks. "Thank you for telling me to choose wholeness. I'm working on it." "Hope you're well," she responded an hour later. "Proud of you, Marcus. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." I moved back home the next day. We converted the guest room into a nursery together, arguing good-naturedly about paint colors. She wanted lavender. I lobbied for sage green. We compromised on a warm cream. We went to counseling every week, had hard conversations, cried, fought, slowly started laughing again. It wasn't perfect. Some days I'd look at her and remember the messages and feel the knife twist. Some nights she'd wake up panicking that I'd leave, but we kept showing up, kept choosing each other. Emma Rose was born on a Tuesday in May, screaming and perfect. When they put her in my arms, I looked at Sarah across the hospital bed and felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly. Something beyond that. Acceptance, maybe. Or hope. "Hey," I said softly. "We made something pretty amazing." "Yeah," she whispered, tears streaming. "We did." Outside the hospital window, the city was waking up. A new day, a fresh start. All the cliches that turn out to be true when you're holding your daughter in your wife's hand and realizing that sometimes the hardest choice is the right one. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "You're a dad. How does it feel?" I typed back with one hand while Emma gripped my finger with terrifying strength, like I just answered 21 missed calls and finally heard what I needed to hear. Which was, that love isn't about who never hurts you. It's about who does the work to heal with you. Sarah read the text over my shoulder, kissed my temple. "I'm still doing that work," she said. "Every day." "I know," I said. "So am I." Emma yawned, stretched, settled into sleep. And for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I was home. Not because everything was fixed, but because we were finally genuinely trying to fix it together. The ending wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and maybe that was enough.